couple chairs. Yeah, it's on wheels, I think. Okay. Whenever you're ready, just You ready? It's going right here. And there's, so if you move the here, how much slack is there? Okay, good. Yeah, so when you move it back, yeah, but you just gotta with zero. We'll just straight move it up there, and maybe we move this down, whatever, and we should be there. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, we'll pull this back. Okay. Drop that down. Okay, we need to get started. Good afternoon. Good, the microphone is working today. Good afternoon and welcome to the Rotary Club of Park Cities. If you're joining us online today, we are glad you're here. My name is Eric Heitkamp, past president of 2014-2015 already. Our invocation, pledge, and national anthem will be led by Lee Waggoner today, followed by the introduction of a guest. Lee, come on up.
Okay, before I open the meeting with a prayer, do we have any concerns now? We're going to hold the joys for the happy bucks, but do we have any concerns right now that someone would like to mention? Oh, wait a minute. Barb?
I have a son-in-law in Augusta, Georgia that's going to have heart surgery on Tuesday. So they're going to replace a heart valve. So keep him in your prayers that they're a 4-year-old and 2-year-old.
Could you all hear that? Her son-in-law is going to have heart surgery next week, and it's prayers for him and the family and the caregivers. And Eric? Yeah.
I had a personal friend of 30 years that passed away yesterday of COVID. He was 64 and was on a ventilator for about a month or so, and so we'd just like to keep, his name is Joe DeJure, we call him Soup of the Day, and we'd like to keep his family in our prayers during this time out of the Chicago area. Thank you.
Okay, let's keep these and any other prayers that we have in our own hearts and minds in mind as we bow in prayer. We gather as friends, acquaintances, new friends. We welcome visitors. Rotary is a very large organization, yet it is made smaller by our weekly luncheons, fellowship, and activities that occur outside this room. For this, we have been, and always will be, grateful. Amen. Now, if you all will face the flag, place your hand over your heart and recite with me the Pledge of Allegiance. It'll be followed by the national anthem. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in
please be seated.
Thank you, Past President Lee. The lifeblood of our club is new members, and so today we're going to start with any guest we have here that could possibly be new members in the future. Richard.
Good morning. I'm pleased to introduce to you today my guest, Dr. Christopher Wells. Dr. Christopher Wells. Christopher is the Executive Director and the publisher of the Living Church Foundation. He is a new friend whom I met because he was a mentor to my grandson, William Hargrave, this past summer, and delighted to know him. He was a very inspirational mentor and friend to William. He also is a sometime professor, he calls it, seminary, teaches theology. Just did a class at Nashotah House in Wisconsin. Please help me welcome Dr. Christopher Wells. Thank you.
Whoops, there. Hi. I am excited to get to spend the day with two of our 6 grandchildren. They are off school in Frisco, so they're spending the day with Mimi. The oldest one here is
Peyton.
And where are you in?
I'm in 3rd grade,
And you like to?
and I like to read.
And this is Addison. She's in kindergarten, and she loves to draw and color.
Thank you, President Richard. So we've got a few friends who came in to listen to Ollie speak today. This is our friend Bill Raleigh, who is the Executive Vice President of Middle Market Banking for Bank of Texas. Texas Capital. I always mix up the two, I'm sorry. So very happy to have him here, and we've got, I think, 2 more people running a little bit late, but should be here shortly. So thank you.
Fabulous. Happy to introduce Cynthia Grazer. I don't receive any credit for that. It goes to Scurry and Eric and Greg Pape and so on, a host of people. She's already been interviewed for membership of the club, and she seems to have survived. Welcome, Cynthia.
Okay, I've got a visitor today, and he is a fantastic family man. He's also a great businessman. He is with Juniper Village at Preston Hollow, right next to the Cooper Clinic. And he's also a great American, and he is also happens to be one of my numerous cousins. So please welcome Kevin Noble.
I have one more guest. I'd like to introduce my son, Christian, who's a semi-regular here. Christian HEITKAMP, he's a 7th grader at Carroll Middle School in Southlake.
Hi.
A special thank you to all of our guests here today. You are welcome anytime. Come see us. We meet every Friday. Also, check out our website, parkcitiesrotary.org, and see if there might be an event you'd like to attend. We'd love to have you. Thank you. Switching microphones here. Sean Foster, come on up and do the Marketplace Advertiser.
Okay, our advertiser today, as you can see, is the one and only Nolan Duck. Now, for the past 15 years, Nolan has worked with business owners to help them determine value, build value, and get full value for their business when they exit the business. He is a multi-million-dollar producer working with manufacturing, distribution, and service companies who do at least $2 million a year in annual revenue that are looking to exit their business. He's also president of the DFW chapter of the Texas Association of Business Brokers, so that's a pretty big responsibility. He is also a board-certified broker. He's a real estate broker. He is a certified exit planning advisor and also a certified value builder. He definitely adds value to our club. So all these things speak to the fact that he knows what he's doing. He's got an enormous amount of credibility. He has done it. And the last year, he even, in the last year, he wrote a book entitled, Are You Ready to Sell Your Business? So it's a really handy, easy read that I would highly recommend for anybody that's considering selling their business. So he would love to visit with you, with business owners who are considering an exit in the next 5 years. Now, please give him a round of applause for sponsoring today.
Thank you, Sean. Richard Stanford, would you like to come up and give a few words about the foundation, please?
Now, I'm carrying information from our Sergeant at Arms, Scott, who can't be here, but it's good stuff. Let me see if I can find it. There it is. The best stuff, the best one is we're almost to $2 million on the foundation. $1,956,885. That is subject to market fluctuations, but pretty soon, if things keep going the way they're going, we will have a $2 million foundation, and so that's fabulous. Year to date, of course, it's just been a few months. $3,600 to the foundation, $700 to Bonton. Now, Bonton, we could do a little bit better. We've got $143,689 in Bonton, so we need another $6,000 and a little bit to bring it up to the $150 that we're going to be putting into that project. But all told, very good financial news.
Thank you, Past President Richard. All right. In recognition of Happy Franklin, today is Happy Bucks. This gives you a chance to talk about, for a small donation of your choice, anything good going on in your world. And this money helps to pay for our speakers that come to our club.
Okay, here.
Just keeping the weekly tradition alive, I'll be making a $5 donation for the 5-0 SMU Mustangs taking on Navy this weekend. Hopefully to 6 next week.
Thanks, Dan. Did you put that in here? Did you? Oh, online. Okay, I'm just checking.
Now I'm going to put it in cash. Well, it's all ones. but what we'd like to do, hopefully he's been able to get on, but whichever way, look at that camera. I want to give a joy because after about a week and a half or 2 weeks in the hospital after surgery, C.C. Colley arrived home yesterday, and he'll be home with home health care, and he's trying to watch in. And so I thought, let's all look at that camera and say, get well, C.C.
Start from back there.
Okay.
Start on that side.
Okay.
Get well, CC.
Go well, C.C.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks, Richard. Who else?
Hi, I'd like to make a $20 donation to Navy over SMU.
Oh, okay. All right, Dan. There you go. Who else? Yes, ma'am.
So this week, my son signed the lease on his second Dallas restaurant, which is lovely. The big deal, though, is he's naming it after me. Bobby's will open probably in a year in the old Doherty's pharmacy space.
Awesome.
On Preston and Royal and Preston. It's sort of comfort food made really, really well. Thanks.
That's awesome.
When?
It'll take, I mean, we just signed the lease this week. It'll take a year by the time we're done with all the permits and the build out. But no.
Bobby's. Remind us when it opens.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Who else?
I'm making a donation to the young people who hopefully will join Rotary when they get a little bit older.
Okay, Barb, you're in charge of that project. Who else? Are we good? I have a prayer of concern I forgot to mention earlier. A&M's playing Alabama this weekend, so I forgot to mention that a little while ago. Who else? Over here, Nate?
I'll second that or counter that offer. I'll make a $20 donation to SMU over Navy.
Okay, here we go. All right, pony up. Go Navy. Oh, here we go. Did you catch that? I said pony up. Did you get that? Oh, okay. Online, yeah, okay, online. We're going to check.
Do I hear 50?
I think we're good. Anybody else? Thank you. Tom. Okay. Yeah. If this is Navy or SMU, I'm just going to move on.
So Jeff, this business of we're going to check is really important because there is no online for donating to Happy Bucks. So let's be Rotarians about this now, okay?
Thank you. Good to point that out. Okay. We may not have time for our speaker at this point. Go ahead, Barb.
Last one. Okay, Kevin and I just returned from 5-week vacation. We saw 6 states, 12 national parks, 4,100 miles later, and we're home.
Okay. Wow, great. That's a road trip. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you to everyone, and thank you to President Happy for starting this. This has been a lot of fun and a lot of good news in the world. So getting back to the foundation for just a second, I kind of breezed over this. We want to recognize everyone that has a birthday this month, and so when I say your name, if you would stand up, we always encourage a small donation to the foundation. Doesn't have to be today. But we want to recognize you for your birthday. Lori Aldridge, David Goodson, Marcia Zeidel, Matt Hawk, Jeff Brady, Bobby Quick, Bobby Majumder, Ruth Aliali, Roger Allspaw, Tammy Kauser, Fred Brown, Herb Durham, Scurry Johnson, the Colonel Orville Salmon, Michelle Brown, Alan Wynn, and Carl von Bieberstein. Happy birthday to y'all. All right, Stan, you want to come up here and talk about the North Texas Food Bank Packing Day coming up?
Thank you. I need to correct one thing. Last week I said that the age for children, somebody asked me, I said 16. That's not right. It's 12. So if we could bring 12 and up would be great. I've got good news and I've got bad news about the packing day. The good news is we had about 25 people signed up. The bad news is we've only had 25 people sign up. So hopefully we have 50, 60 members. I was hoping to get at least 20% of those. So I'm short. So I'll send out another blast today. And if you signed up and you get my email blast, just obviously disregard it because I can't call out who's already signed up. Just ignore it. But if you would, it's a week from tomorrow. I didn't do it tomorrow because there's something else in town going on. So I did a week from tomorrow. So if you guys could put off organizing your sock drawer and sign up for this, that would be fantastic. Any questions, give me a call. Thanks.
Thank you, Stan. What's going on next weekend? Was it this weekend? Joy Gold, come on up and tell us that we've got a fun event coming up. Joy, tell us all about it.
Sure thing. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to take a moment to invite you all to the next PCR Connect event. So what is PCR? It is an opportunity for us to meet in a little bit of a smaller, more intimate setting outside of these four walls, out in the community. So coming up on, it's going to be October the 21st, 5 to 7 at everyone's favorite restaurant in the area, HILLSTONE. Okay, do I have your interest now? All right, so that's going to be on the 21st from 5 to 7. So just come out, hang out with us, get to network, and kind of know other people in the club. And so look forward to seeing you guys then. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. That's always a great place to meet. All right, we have the Stars game coming up on October 29th. How many people here know how to ice skate, by the way? Is it the hardest thing you've ever done in your whole life? This is the most difficult thing I've ever done. Well, we're really looking forward to it. We're signed up. Christian's looking forward to it. Also, check your TV monitors and announcements for upcoming club events. We've got a ton of things going on. And with no further ado, we'll have Daniel Drabinski come up and introduce our guest.
I wanted to bring my solo stove and put it in the center, but they wouldn't, fire marshal wouldn't permit it, so. How these doing?
Hey,
All
everybody.
right, how we doing? Well, here we are, our fireside chat. Welcome. Ollie, welcome to the Rotary Club of Park Cities.
Absolutely happy to be here. We've done this before in an actual coffee shop, and we looked exactly like this, I think.
Usually a little fire going in the center. So Ollie, 2 weeks ago, our mutual friend Simon was here, and I made the mistake of trying to read off all of Simon's accomplishments, and after about 3 or 4 minutes, I got the hook. So I'm not going to make that mistake. We're going to skip the whole introduction. I'm just going to hand it over to you and tell us about yourself. Tell us, you've been in this role for about 3 years now, so tell us about how you ended up in Dallas and about the Business Journal.
Yeah, happy to. I can't hang with Simon. Simon's resume is spectacular. Mine is more about sports. So I grew up in Toronto, Canada. I was one of the folks that raised their hand when you asked if you can skate. It's a requirement when you're 1 year old, so I knew how to skate immediately. So I played golf up in Canada, which sounds a little bit funny, but it was we had 6-7 months a year to play golf, and I played golf. Ended up at Queen's University, it used to be Queen's College in Charlotte, playing golf, and so I was there and never left. I was 20 years in Charlotte. Tail end of that, I started working for the Charlotte Business Journal, and that was 6 years at CBJ, and then I went to our corporate office for a year and had a really cool role. I actually traveled the country and worked with all of the Business Journal publishers on mainly hiring and recruiting and hiring. That was awesome because I got to see most of the business journals are in a really cool part of town. We're in Uptown here in Dallas, so I got to hang out in all these cool cities right in the center and work with publishers and meet a bunch of different folks. At that point, after about a year of that, they said, "Hey, we want you to be the publisher, actually do this, in one of the cities." And so I moved to Greensboro, which is 90 minutes from Charlotte. It was the shortest move possible that my wife would allow. And so we went to Greensboro. Still went back to Charlotte often, but Greensboro, I was there for 4 years. It was a kind of a struggling business. We turned it around, and it's thriving. For several, probably the last 2 years, our executives that they're in New York and they're in Charlotte, they were asking me to move to a bigger city. And this, Dan, you asked me about this, but it came up a bunch of times. And so I'm not going to say the cities, but they rattled off a couple that they offered me the gig to go take over in a bigger market. And several times, you know this, several times I turned it down. And my wife really turned it down, but we turned it down because we didn't want to live there. They weren't desirable places. And she's from rural South Carolina. And so we had 2 on our list. There was only 2 left on the list, and one of them was Atlanta. And me personally, I just wanted to come to Dallas. And I had only been here for social events and those kind of things. I went to the Cotton Bowl, the game tomorrow about 15 years ago.
And I thought it was awesome. There's just this certain vibe, this feel here that I really like, and it's a big, big market. And I grew up in Toronto, so Toronto is about the same size, and it felt like home, other than Toronto's a lot colder and way more expensive, but it's the same kind of feel. So I ended up, so they weren't going to throw us Atlanta because the guy there is about 50, and so he's not going anywhere, and he's thriving. So somehow Dallas came up. My predecessor, Tracy, if you've met her, she was promoted. And so there was an opening. And so Dallas came up, and I was actually playing in a corporate golf tournament, might have been drinking some beers and stuff on like a Monday. And the CEO calls and says, Ollie, we want you to go to Dallas. And I said, I'm in, let's go, like I'm in. And he said, I haven't even made a job offer yet, right? So I'm like, hey, Whit, I'm in, just tell me what to do, what's the deal, what's the timeline? And I called my wife, and she said, absolutely, let's go. And we were here, I was on a plane within 48 hours to come check it out, just to see. And then I lived here by myself for 8 months, actually, and flew back and forth every 2 weeks because my kid's 7th grade. Yeah, so I was going back and forth. But now they're here. It's been 3 years, and we absolutely love it. It's been spectacular. It's exactly what I thought. Really good vibes, good feel, really, really amazing business climate. It's easier to be the publisher at the Business Journal in Dallas than in probably 20 of our other business journal cities. So very happy to be here.
So we'll talk about Dallas a little bit, but just I want everyone to get a familiarity with the Business Journal. What's the mission statement of the Business Journal? What are you guys trying to accomplish?
So we one of the main things we do is to, well, obviously inform. So we provide information. If you get the Ollie Chandok email, I'm not actually the guy sending that out every morning and every afternoon, but if you get that, we're providing you information, keep you informed on the business community locally. The peripheral benefit, and it's something we take very seriously, is to create connections in the business community. And so last night, for example, our 40 Under 40 awards the last 2 years, Young Professional Awards, we've had to do them virtually. So we delivered the recognition, they were recognized, they got their trophies, and we published information about them, but they never actually met each other. So last night, we did a cocktail reception just to get the last 2 classes of these young professional leaders together. And everybody loved it. They were super thankful and grateful that we actually did this for no reason other than that they could meet and make connections. So information, of course, but ultimately we want to make business connections in the community, or at least provide platforms for you to make the business connections, which is why we're not only a newspaper, digital, but also really an events business as well.
All right, I appreciate that. So let's shift it over to Dallas. I noticed my commute here to lunch used to take about 8 minutes. Now it took about 30, and I almost got in about 4 accidents. So are there states just offloading their worst drivers to us, or why are companies actually moving here to Dallas?
Yeah, no, it was like that for me too, man. I barely made it, but yeah. So there's a lot of reasons. We actually focus a lot of our content on corporate relocation. All of you know about it. Companies are moving here in droves. Several things. Of course, tax policy is the one that we all kind of, you hear about. It's the top level thing, so I'm not going to get into that. Another piece of this is our editor talks about this quite a bit, a predictable regulatory environment. The politics are consistent. Whether you like the politics or not, you know what to expect. So it's easier for somebody that runs a very large business to run their business. It makes it a little bit more stable. So a predictable environment. The most important one that I think is not, so you hear talent, right, and workforce, but what we have here is I just told you guys, like me personally, it's a really cool place to live, and you have options. So the talent is here. The talent will continue to come here because they have different, they have different parts of town they can live in. They can live in West Village, or they can live in Frisco, or you can live in Irving. And it's really comfortable for it's really comfortable for businesses to attract talent and then keep it here because you have options. So we have talent, certainly, but for a big business leader that runs a billion-dollar company, they know that, hey, you know what, I can get more folks to move here, and I can certainly keep my folks here because they have a lot of options, a lot of choices. So it's talent, and the options available to the talent is what is one of the things we hear from a lot of the folks that we talk to.
So let's talk about within Texas. Obviously, it hit the news yesterday that Elon Musk and Tesla are relocating their official headquarters to Austin. When some of these companies that you speak with are looking at Austin versus Houston versus Dallas versus San Antonio, what are some of the deciding factors there?
Yeah, I think that's a company by company decision. So if you are if you're a tech-related firm, you probably, like Tesla, you kind of lean towards Austin because of the talent, but also because you've got a critical mass of those companies that can also serve you. They're partners, they're liaisons, but they also, because they're there, they're going to bring more talent, right? So you kind of venture in that way. Now, if you are an industrial of some sort, right? Southern Dallas is terrific, right? Cedar Hill, Lancaster, awesome stuff going on there in the industrial sector. So if you're coming from out of state, you're going to look at that part of Dallas, and so you kind of figure out where the critical mass is of companies similar to yours or industries similar to yours, and you'll kind of venture into that area. That's the feel we get. It's the companies themselves that determine where they land, and they kind of continue to snowball in those particular geographies.
I mean, when we think about industry trends, I always recall, I was telling someone yesterday, 5 years ago, Mayor Mike Rollins stood on this stage and said, "Mark my word, in 10 to 15 years, Dallas will be the financial hub of the U.S." And we all sort of scoffed to a certain extent, but I mean, you look at the number of financial firms that have been moving down here, and we're going through the list. I mean, Charles Schwab and
Bank of Texas
Fortress
and Texas Capital.
Texas Capital. Eventually, you guys will merge, and I'll get it right. So, CBRE, First Foundation, Lion Real Estate Group, WileyX, NRA, Fortress, McKesson, Cormark, Jacobs. They just keep coming and coming. So, are there specific industries or industry focuses that are really focused on Dallas specifically?
I mean, yeah, all of them. I mean, seriously, I mean that. The financial sector, certainly. I mean, I came from Charlotte, which is, they consider themselves in Charlotte to be the banking hub, right? B of A and Wells. There's nobody else, like, after that, right? So here, I come here, and for one of the first things I hear is, hey, there's 230 banks in DFW, and I'm thinking, holy cow, how does that even, like, match up? How do you keep them all in track? So I 231, yeah, I mean, it just happened, yeah. Like, so there's just obviously the financial sector, critical mass of that. Supply chain is a huge part of this, right? Logistics, obviously DFW, but Love Field, and then just north of Fort Worth, you've got Alliance, Texas, right? The inland port, intermodal stuff. I mean, we've become this critical kind of conduit for all of the supply chain stuff that, and centrally located geography-wise, we can get anywhere very quickly from Dallas. So Dallas-Fort Worth. So it's just, there's several different industries. I hate to say just everything, but you can find what you need here. There's a lot of, McKinney is positioning themselves as an innovation hub. So you've got this like tech innovation sector that's starting to take over here as well. We actually launched a platform called NTX Inno, North Texas Innovation, and it's a segment that we used to miss, right? So this is the venture capital people, the startup folks, the folks that wear jeans and suit jackets and they go to like all these events and drink like an IPA. We miss those folks. We didn't cover them.
Sounds great.
So I'm sorry. I'm so
I love those guys.
Yeah, those guys are awesome. But they're the guys with the ideas and starting up these new businesses and these great concepts. We wrote about tech, but our tech was AT&T and Texas Instruments. We never wrote about these guys, and so we started covering this because there is this burgeoning segment of these startups and tech folks that are happening here. So many different industries, but those are probably the ones that come to the forefront at the moment.
Yeah, and Kevin Cummings has done a great job kind of running that. How do people get signed up for NTX Inno?
Yeah, easy. You just literally www.ntxinno.com and you'll sign up for a free newsletter and you'll be very engaged with what's going on. Kevin Cummings is the editor of NTX Inno. He sits in the DBJ newsroom, but he wears a different badge. We're all part of the same family, but he has to do that. That crowd is very, they stick together. So Kevin is very much a part of that crowd. They go to him when they want to publicize something or when they have a story. They don't come to our editor-in-chief. They go to Kevin.
Yeah, I feel like Kevin does a great job with sort of the rumor mill, but also kind of the new breaking news, some of the stuff that you guys couldn't potentially put in the business journal because it needs to be fully edited. So we'll definitely get to the question about rumors and sort of off the cuff kind of what rumors you're hearing, what are the companies. I definitely want to hear a little bit more about that. But let's focus a little bit on California. I went to a social last night, and there were a handful of people I'd never recognized before and introduced myself. And they said, oh, I moved here from LA last week. I moved here from LA 2 weeks ago. It's just this constant flood. So we hear about it in the press. What do the actual numbers look like? You see behind the scenes.
So California obviously is the place that we hear about all these corporate relos coming from. I don't know specific metrics, but as it pertains to the reason why, we touched on them a little bit earlier, but I haven't spent a lot of time in California. I'm an East Coaster, and then down here. We actually wrote about this. Somebody named John Boyd, he runs the Boyd Companies. He analyzes these corporate relocations, and what they've determined is when a company of any size leaves California and moves to Texas, they stand to save 20% and of their really in every kind of segment. So the reasons for the 20% and the savings, they come from, you think about taxes, right? That's the first thing you think about. But if you think, the rest of it is they save money on their payroll. You don't have to pay people as much here. They save money on real estate. So when they're, if it's a manufacturing facility or something along those lines, significant savings just on the real estate. But even all the way down to utilities, right? Like all of that stuff is less expensive. And so they leave California, that's typically the top level, right? But one of the other things is if you're leading an organization, you like your people, right? Like your folks are your team. It's a much better lifestyle. Like I hate to rip on California, but if you really think about this, the houses are more affordable. Commute times are a little bit better, I guess. I mean, it's changing quickly, but there are several different things. It's a lifestyle that becomes easier for the people that they care about, and then on the peripheral to that, they can attract and they can retain more people because this is an easier place to live. I mean, I came here, if they said, Ollie, we want you to go to San Francisco, I would have said, I can't afford it, no matter how much you pay. You know what I mean? I can't transition to San Francisco from North Carolina. But here, it was easy. It was a much easier transition, right? So I think, there's a lot of all of the high-level considerations for the business, but it goes back to their people. This becomes an easier place for them to move to, and also to attract people to come work for their company that are already here.
So let's talk about home prices a little bit, because we have a lot of vested interest in the real estate market here in this room, and I know you guys have done a lot of studies on sort of the effect of people moving from California, purchasing houses. What have you guys seen just from a number standpoint in terms of home prices? What are your projections for this year?
Yeah, so we just published an article yesterday or 2 days ago about how our home prices are still going up, but they're going up significantly slower than it was 2 months ago, 4 months ago, 6 months ago. So it's almost like we've tapered off. There's just we're going to continue to grow. So the forecast we have we have a real estate editor and 2 real estate reporters, and so that this is what we do. We cover real estate, commercial and residential. And it's a constant conversation. When is this going to taper off, right? So nothing groundbreaking, exactly what you expect. It feels like we finally started to normalize a bit. I don't have the specifics. You'd want Anna up here for that. But we're normalizing, and it's going to continue on. I mean, that's everybody's thought. I forget we have sources, Ben Caballero, I forget his organization. We source these guys and they study all this stuff. And so the thought is, in most places in the country, there's going to be some significant tapering, but here we are not going to slow down as much, if that makes any sense.
Got it. So let's talk about individuals and relocations. What are you hearing in terms of I know you can't give exact names, but you guys obviously get a good sense for larger companies coming, where they're going to be going. You just had your best real estate deals this week, so you've got a good sense of kind of industrial space being taken up. What's your sense for what areas are going to see the most growth within DFW, and if you can allude to any specific corporate relocations or moves?
So I can't, but I honestly don't know. So we are very close with the economic developers, right? Dale Petrosky, Beth Bowman, all of that crowd, right? And they're exceptional, obviously, because of the results, right? Mm-hmm. They don't tell us anything. They tell us like the project name, like, hey, Project Ollie, what is, what this is? It's called Project Cardinal. I'm like, great, who's the company? So they don't tell us anything, but they tell us their pipeline. Hey, we have 75 companies in the pipeline of any significant size. So we have that information, and then it's up to our reporters to dig and find this stuff, right? So I don't have any secrets at the moment. Every now and then I do, and I still won't tell you, but I don't have anything specific. So certain geographies, I'll tell you, booming wise is Alliance, Texas. I mean, north of Fort Worth is just mind blowing. If you go see that, it's going to have significant lasting impact for 20, 30 years. Residential all around it. It's not just the airport and the intermodal. It's the most rooftops going up anywhere in DFW, and it probably doesn't get the notice that like Collin County gets, or like Anna, Melissa, which are great towns too, but man, that Tarrant County north is unbelievable right now. So yeah, that area is great. Irving continues to be I know Beth pretty well, and I mean, she says it at the end of phone calls, we're the headquarters of headquarters. They are. I mean, they attract big businesses, and that's what they go after. And then you have Plano. Plano gets the most corporate relocation. I think they had 23 corporate relocations of any significant size in 2020. Like, that's impressive. Yeah. And that's all kind of that legacy west, legacy east. There's a lot of action in that area.
Sure. So you guys just had the awards for the best real estate deals of the year. What were some projects that really stuck out? I know Simon a couple weeks ago was talking about the new biotech facility, kind of the growth there, and obviously you see things like Old Parkland, how over the course of a decade just completely re-centralized the financial industry locally. What are some other projects or developments around DFW that really get you excited?
Yeah, so best real estate deals, the deal of the year was the Omni Hotel at PGA Frisco, which we all know about that. One of the coolest things that I took from the best real estate deals event, there's a lot of really cool hotels that are going, honestly, like our hotel category was the Thompson, downtown Dallas, which is awesome, right? If you check it out, AC Hotel in Fort Worth is really, really cool. The Drover, there's ones I hadn't even heard of, and so we do a little bit of digging. These are like destinations in town. Like, I'm telling my wife, like, we need to just go hang out at the Drover for 2 days. Like, it's just really, really cool stuff. Like, obviously not super significant, like regional, like financial impact, but just cool projects that are happening in town that will attract people as well from outside. So I think there are some things, if you dig on our site and type in best real estate deals, you'll see some of these projects. There's really cool stuff happening that sometimes we aren't known for that, right? Like a Charleston, South Carolina is known for, like, let's go visit and check out King Street and Meeting Street, right? You go to Nashville for like Broadway and all that stuff, but we don't necessarily have that attraction. We're trying. So these developers have these things in the works that are just really cool places to hang out, honestly.
So let's play devil's advocate for a minute, because I know years ago Boeing made their decision to choose Chicago over DFW, and for decades they were forming commissions to talk about why did that happen, where did Dallas go wrong, and I feel like we talk a lot about the positives. I imagine you get plenty of feedback as well as about the negatives around Dallas. Without giving specific examples, but what are you hearing when companies decide not to come to DFW? Like, why do they choose other areas?
Yeah, there are a couple, and so the first one that comes to mind is infrastructure. That's a common conversation. We have great roads, but are they keeping up with the pace of growth? The infrastructure is certainly one. Workforce development, right? So attracting and retaining talent, I've kind of hyped it up that's a selling point, but there's also a lack of homegrown talent. Like our schools are terrific, right? You got SMU, TCU, Dallas College is great. We have to figure out how to engage those folks closer to the business community, to the manufacturing community, right? Like they're producing talent, but they always have the option to leave, right? And so I think there needs to be more of a solid tie between the educational community and the business community. And like I came from Charlotte and Greensboro, and I spent some time in all these other markets. Some of these markets, I mean, they are tied together. You go to a business event, the chancellors of every university are at the business event. It doesn't feel like that here. The other thing, our editor cites this quite a bit, is, and this is specific to Dallas, we have aging housing inventory. So when people move to the area, or when a company moves to the area and brings 500 employees, they move to Melissa, and they move to to McKinney or wherever, right? people don't live in Dallas because it's aging inventory and it's really expensive. So it becomes difficult for folks to stay in the CBD, in the Central Business District. So I think that's a concern if we want to continue to grow Dallas proper. Some of these housing tracts need to be revitalized and recharged. And there's a ton of opportunity for it.
I know you don't have a political position per se, but
I'm Canadian, man.
I would consider you incredibly influential in the business community. You're pretty much everywhere at all times, it seems like. So are there things specifically that the Dallas Business Journal can be doing to help influence some of these trends and sort of offset these negative influences?
Yeah, absolutely. So you know, we stay very neutral, of course, right? And that is any decent media stays very neutral, which we cover local business news. That's it, right? So we'll write about any company that's doing anything significant, especially around real estate or recruiting or hiring. We're going to write about those folks. Our role is to, when you talk corporate relocation or the growth of the area, again, we serve to inform. So the people here, obviously, you want to know what's happening, but we get a ton of traffic from outside these zip codes. We get a ton of traffic from folks in California, of course. As a side note, we've tried to monetize that. Like I'm telling you that up front. It's a little bit shady. We've created platforms to have our economic developers run their advertising in other business journal cities. My colleagues in San Fran and Silicon Valley, they hate me, but we're helping out Beth Bowman and Dale Petrosky, right? So yes, we inform folks that, you know, business leaders in other cities that might be looking at Dallas. If you're leading an organization and you're sitting in St. Louis, I'm just picking on random cities, but if you're sitting in St. Louis, you're going to type into let's Google Dallas, and we come up. We're typically first. They're reading our site and they're seeing this activity. They're seeing kind of this good mojo, if you want to call it that, and it you know, we hopefully are helping that conversation in these other markets for people to continue to come this way. We don't intentionally direct it that way, except for that paid thing I just told you about. The news is just covering our local folks, and there's a lot of good news here. So again, try it out. Go to St. Louis, pull up Dallas Business Journal, and see what you're looking at. It feels pretty good.
Well, that's the questions I had. Let's pass it around. Any questions for Ollie?
Hey, thanks a ton for being here. What's the biggest challenge as we see media going electronic and digital?
Yeah, that's it changes often. Digital, we made the transition. We started to make the transition, I'd say, a decade ago. It has now, like, especially, this sounds crazy, but because of COVID, it was the final nail in the coffin, pretty much, right? Like, our audience is significantly digital now. It was kind of a 50-50 almost for a long time, for years. Now, I mean, our views, our traffic on the website have, like, they skyrocketed, especially with the CARES Act and PPP during the start of the pandemic. Man, our numbers went through the roof. So now they've kind of tapered a little bit. The print piece has stayed the same. It's typically, you know, if our average age reader of print is slightly older, it skews more male than female. Digital is the opposite. It's a slightly younger crowd, but more female than male. You know, so we've really kind of shifted to the digital world. The one thing that's been really challenging recently is subscribers. You know, so we took off and had a huge numbers middle of 2020. It's really slowed down. I think we lost all the folks that signed up to read up on the CARES Act, and those folks all signed in because they wanted to know how to make sure they're getting their money and all of that. They don't renew. So you know, everything's kind of settled down, and so we have our core loyal audience, which typically grows at this is not a bad number. 7.6% a year is the average over the last 10 years. So we continue to grow. But yeah, it's shifted. That audience has become very digital and less print.
Ollie, again, thanks for coming and appreciate your time, and it's been very enlightening. But Sidney Reagan was the head of the real estate department at SMU a number of years ago. And when he was the head of the real estate department, he had these kids all involved in the real estate community, in commercial and residential. I mean, it was huge. When he retired, that totally disappeared. We'd be interviewed by these kids. They'd take us to lunch. They want to know what we were doing. They want to know if they could get a summer job with us or even a job after work. But when he left, it disappeared, and that happened, gosh, 30 or 40 years ago since he's been involved. How can we recover that? How can we start that program again? Do we go to SMU? Do we go to these colleges and say, hey, do you have an interest? Because we would certainly provide those positions if you wanted to talk to us about it, but nobody's doing anything.
Yeah, that's. I mean, so you guys know Simon Mack. Simon is the Southwest Venture Forum. He's an entrepreneur professor. It's almost like you have to have a champion that leads the charge there. And you mentioned Sydney. We can contribute to that conversation. We would certainly be a part of it. We wouldn't be the person at SMU to be the catalyst for it, but we can help, obviously. And so I mentioned earlier we've really kind of built up our real estate coverage. We don't have 3 reporters anywhere else. We don't have 3 manufacturing folks. It's just real estate is the focus. So I think we can talk offline. We actually hired our former managing editor, Anna Butler. She's back as our real estate editor. So we didn't have a real estate editor specifically. We just had a couple reporters. She is going to lead the charge with that and probably can in an informal way serve as a conduit to SMU or any college really to help kind of bring up younger folks in the industry. I also think you'd want to tap into the the Cushman and Wakefields, the JLLs, the CBREs, those folks. We're close to them, and I know they would love to be in that conversation because of talent, for sure.
You mentioned the significant growth that's happening in places like McKinney or just other general areas of North Dallas. Is there any area of Dallas where you see a significant level of redevelopment or excitement that's an area to watch?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know it very well, but obviously southern Dallas has a lot of potential, right? And broader, a much larger geography, supposedly, like I haven't really spent a lot of time, but I hear beautiful topography, the whole thing. And one of the things that 2 years ago, our best real estate deal was the revitalization of Redbird Mall with the health system, all of it, right? I think Peter Brodsky and Terrence Maiden, what they're doing down there will serve as a catalyst for that area for sure. We have eyeballs on that area because of that, right? So they're kind of it's a major project, but it's one project, right? I think what they're hoping for is that peripheral stuff will happen around that and it will grow. If you listen to Peter Brodsky's podcast on our site, he cites the fact that, I think he lives in Preston Hollow, and he says when he stands on his balcony, he can see 6 Starbucks, but if he's at Redbird Mall, there's one Starbucks within like 12 miles of Redbird Mall. And so there are things like that have to happen, but he cites the potential for that whole area. I think that's a big, there's a lot of upside right there, for sure.
Hey, Ollie, thanks again for being here. You already touched on this a little bit, but I was wondering if you could talk about what media companies are having to do to survive. And by that I mean, Pew Research cites statistics regarding newsroom employment nationwide lost 25% of their entire staff in the last decade. And newspapers are even worse. You may know this better than I. More than 50% of people who worked at newspapers are gone. Furloughed, fired, retired, early retirement, whatever. So, and look at the Dallas Morning News. It's a shadow of its former self. So leaner, meaner, yes, but what are media companies, from your perspective, having to do to be relevant and to survive economically now?
Yeah, that's a great question. And again, from my previous experience in other cities, the Morning News is actually faring really well compared to Charlotte Observer, several of the other ones, right? But you mentioned it. We're extremely lean. We have been lean for a very long time. In fact, every couple years, it feels like we shrink a little bit FTE-wise. We're at 23, so we're bigger. Our brand is bigger than our office is. We're 23 folks, right? So you see that. We've had to streamline beats coverage-wise. We don't. There's certain things we've let go. We don't cover healthcare very well, quite frankly. It's not a focus, and part of that is if you think of Baylor Scott and White, let's say, if you think of the system, our readers are the executives, and that's it, right? So when you think about a sales organization, a professional services, an accounting firm, everybody reads the Business Journal. So we've really kind of had to adjust and pick and choose beats, and so that's made us a lot leaner. we figured out a variety of ways to monetize other things, right? So like we've grown this digital classified part of our site. So if you think about like the people on the move, when we put somebody in there that's promoted or they got a new job, it used to be free. You just plug it in there. Now companies pay for that. It's not very expensive, but they pay for that, and over the course of a year, it's a significant bump in revenue. So there are things like that that we've had to do. And it's not just us. A lot of media companies are doing things like that to monetize that. Everything is paywall now. I mean, you might be able to read 1 out of 5 articles on our site that's free. Most of the time, you have to actually pay to subscribe to get access to this. So there are things that we've just really tightened up. The other thing I'll mention is our events business. I mentioned making connections earlier. That continues to grow, and it's booming. And so that part of what we do is really taken off. It's when every now and then my golf buddies or something will say, "Hey man, you're a newspaper guy, man. You must be struggling." Like, well, no, everything's actually doing pretty good. Our numbers have grown financially. We just have to look very different than we used to. The events has become an elevated part of what we do, and so not to get too into the weeds, but virtual events, not fun. But when we're talking about a panel discussion that is around cybersecurity, I can now tap an expert that sits in California or in New York or in Boston, versus when we did them like this, I have to call the guys that live right here in order to sit on the panel, right? So there is potential with this virtual world to do content-related stuff. When we do celebrations and give out awards, you got to do it like, it's way more fun like this, right? Yeah. So yeah.
We'll cut it off there. It's 12:55. I don't want Eric to get in trouble with Happy, but Ollie, if you don't mind sticking around for a couple minutes and just answering some of the questions, in your honor, we're going to be placing a book in McShan Elementary School and with your name. So thank you very much for being here. And again, Ollie Chagnick, Dallas Business Journal. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel, for bringing the program. And Ollie, thank you for such an insightful program. We're very grateful you're here and come back anytime. Thank you. All right, next week's program is Kim Noltemy. Kim Noltemy, she's with the Dallas Symphony, brought to us by Charlotte Croker. And our four-way test today by Joy Gold. I'm going to get it right here eventually.
Testing, can you hear me? All right. So I said I have to still read this because I'm still new, but so if you could join along with me in doing the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned?
I forgot to ring the bell to start.
He is so cute and so polite.
Oh my God, I forgot to ring the bell to start the program.
That's all right. Nobody noticed. Nobody noticed.
Nobody here? Someone's supposed to call here?
Oh, really?
Red carpet.
Ollie, thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Really appreciate it.
Too, man. This is good.